Look, the ride-based movies have been a little hit and miss. Right. I want you to go with me on this. Uh-oh. It's a little obscure, but we're gonna make a movie that's extremely loosely based on that one part of Fantasia. What? You know, the one with the music that's in public domain? I'm listening. We'll get Nick Cage to star as the Sorcerer in The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Really? Nicolas Cage? Isn't he a little... well... what? Intense? Sure, but what else are you gonna do? Make live action versions of our animated films? Right? Who would fall for that? Actually, one thing at a time.
Because that's how you get ant!
Fantasia was released in 1940. Originally an attempt to boost Mickey Mouse's popularity, the short The Sorcerer's Apprentice blossomed into a feature-length collection of shorts. Walt Disney wanted to marry animation and classical music and turn it into fantasy. The Sorcerer's Apprentice is likely the most well-known piece from Fantasia. While some critics considered Fantasia a masterpiece, our greatest achievement will be finding anything nice to say about 2010's The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Wikipedia said that this movie was largely driven by Nicolas Cage. Considering it cites several articles, it seems likely to be true. And that's the first nice thing I have to say. Nicolas Cage is kind of brilliant in this. There's an argument to be had as to whether or not Nicolas Cage is a genius actor. I don't think it's that simple. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're bad, but it's clear he was passionate about the role. Cage plays Balthazar, one of Merlin's 3 apprentices. In a battle against Morgan le Fey, Horvath, another apprentice, betrays Merlin. Veronica, the 3rd apprentice, traps le Fey's soul inside her own body, and the two are trapped in a Grimhold, a magical prison that takes the form of a nesting doll. As Merlin dies, he gives Balthazar a dragon ring and the task to find the Prime Merlinian, someone who will inherit all of Merlin's powers and defeat Morgan for good. Balthazar travels the world over the course of centuries looking for the Prime Merlinian to no avail. So this is a lot of front-loaded backstory. When you're limited to a movie, it's hard to establish a backstory, especially something like this. Properties like Harry Potter and Hunger Games have whole book series to rely on, so if you don't understand something, you can refer to the book. I'm reading a book. Don't you ever interrupt me while I'm reading a book. The Sorcerer's Apprentice didn't have that, so they rely on Arthurian legend to fill in some of those blanks. I thought it was an interesting take. In the year 2000, young David stumbles across a mysterious arcane artifacts shop in New York City. Balthazar tests him and he is the Prime Merlinian. Horvath breaks out of the Grimhold prison and fights with Balthazar. They are both trapped inside a magical urn. The incident traumatizes David. During this sequence, Dave has been flirting with a girl on the bus. There are some subtle things here, like he clearly has a best friend as a child and there is a very clear relationship between the two. We never see that kid again as an adult. It was just a very well-acted friendship that added depth but ultimately doesn't come back. 10 years later, David is 20, attending NYU, runs into his childhood crush Becky in a physics class. She's not great at science. He offers to walk her to the radio station and fixes an antenna that was struck by lightning. Horvath and Balthazar escape their 10-year sentence in the urn. Horvath comes after David to get the rest of the sorcerers in the Grimhold. While going after David, Horvath animates wolves from a picture in a calendar.
Sweet.
Get him!
Wolves?
He's saved last minute by Balthazar, who has animated one of the eagle gargoyles on the Chrysler Building.
Oh, hey.
Where's the doll, Dave?
All the magic stuff they do is really cool. There's a spell that Balthazar casts that has this water effect that slows Horvath down. that Horvath and Balthazar have a long history together. They've been enemies for a long time. Again, I think they did a great job with this relationship. There's a sort of casualness to the way they fight. Instead of a show of brute strength, they have to be more calculated. Instead of facing off directly, they tend to throw something else in each other's path. It's interesting to see this kind of adversarial relationship. With Alfred Molina as Horvath, you know it's well done. It's not explicitly stated when Horvath was imprisoned in the Grimhold, but it was clearly later than the others based on his clothes. Balthazar begins Dave's lessons. Jay Baruchel is great at playing awkward and nerdy. We get an explanation about magic and science that they're one and the same. Each sorcerer has an item that allows them to focus their power. The Prime Merlinian will not need that item. He'll be able to conduct magic without it. They do that thing where they say the reason sorcerers can do magic is because they use more than 10% of their brains. I'm gonna pause here and go on a rant. About 65% of Americans believe the 10% myth, that people only use 10% of their brain. So I'll assume about 65% of my viewers believe it too, and it's time to debunk it. You use more than 10% of your brain to read and comprehend a stop sign. If there is one thing I wish I could eliminate from every story going forward, it's this nonsense.
Here, educate yourself!
Rant over, please return to your regularly scheduled programming. We go through pretty predictable plot points, and that's not a bad thing. The movie is very much a race to get the Grimhold back before Horvath gets it to release Morgan le Fey. Dave is trying to reconnect with his crush. Training to use magic is making it more difficult. Dave has a lab where he's constructing a Tesla coil in an abandoned subway turnaround. He invites Becky to the lab and uses the coils to play her music while they are safe inside a Faraday cage.
You were listening. I played this song the other night.
Look, I may be giving myself away here, but I like any movie that has a Faraday cage in it. We get the reference to the iconic Fantasia scene when Dave animates the cleaning supplies while he gets ready for Becky's visit. Horvath recruits a young Chris Angel-type magician who is a Morganian who lost his mentor. Now they are more evenly matched. There's a cool magic attack that involves trapping someone in a mirror that Balthazar uses against Horvath. It comes back later in a car chase that's pretty great.
It's been a while since I've seen the Hungarian mirror trap. I guess I'm just old-fashioned.
While Horvath wants to release le Fey in order to raise an undead army of evil sorcerers to rule the world, Balthazar kind of wants le Fey released too, because that means he'll be reunited with Veronica. Horvath steals a bunch of those magic-focusing items, including Dave's and another sorcerer from the Grimhold. He releases le Fey, and le Fey starts the spell, bouncing flames off satellite dishes to form a pentagram in the sky. Dave shows up, le Fey and Veronica separate, Balthazar gets his butt kicked by an animated Wall Street Bull statue, Dave saves the day without his ring. He animates some electrical wires and fries the le Fey spirit. Veronica and Balthazar are reunited. Dave now has all the confidence he needs with Becky and offers to fly her to Paris on the Chrysler Building Eagle. The ending fight is tense and exciting, and again, the effects they use for the magic are outstanding. While Dave is clearly new to this, some of the best parts of this movie are when Horvath and Balthazar are fighting each other. Not only are they evenly matched, they are both extremely competent at what they do. I feel like I don't see this very often. If you think of Harry Potter, another film that focuses on magic users, Harry only ever uses like 3 spells. We only get a few times when 2 extremely competent wizards go after each other, like Molly Weasley and Bellatrix Lestrange. Everyone else is either half mad, playing the long game, or just not good at it. Voldemort is so overpowered, he doesn't have anyone who can match him. If you can think of any other movies that feature 2 extremely competent, well-matched villains, drop it in the comments. The Sorcerer's Apprentice is a lot of fun. Nicolas Cage clearly has a great time in the role and does a fantastic job. Kirk Honeycutt of The Hollywood Reporter said The Sorcerer's Apprentice is a tired relic of summer movie cliches. I mean, it isn't. I already identified some of the things that make it different. Counter-argument, it's a fun movie that doesn't take many risks, but is still an entertaining, sometimes silly diversion for 2 hours. It seems to me that many movie critics are anti-joy. What else are you gonna watch? The English Patient? Don't watch The English Patient. God, no. Walk away. That's all for this episode of Anything Nice to Say. Thanks for watching, and never be ashamed to like what you like. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any movie suggestions, be sure to drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to head over to our Patreon and subscribe for early access and exclusive content. We also have a merch store, so, you know,